Hello, hello. I'm Phoebe Bain, senior reporter at Ad Age, and welcome to another episode of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion about marketing news and trends that have the industry talking. On this episode, we're sitting down with Allison Luvera and Lauren De Niro Pipher, the two co-founders of direct-to-consumer luxury boxed wine brand Juliet. Founded in 2022, the Friends Trend business partners started the brand to make boxed wine a little bit more upscale and market the product to women. This episode is basically a deep dive into how two women built an online company in an industry that's historically been run by men and driven by in-person transactions rather than online ones. We also talked about how savvy branding techniques can make a product seem more luxurious, as well as the unique strategy Juliet is using to enter physical retailers as they transition away from being 100% direct to consumer. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing great. So excited to be here. Thank you so much, Phoebe.
Of course, of course. So would love to start out by just having, one or both of you describe how this brand came to be. How did you get the idea for it? How did it all come together? I want to hear the full story.
Amazing. I'll jump in. This is Allison. So Juliet is the first luxury boxed wine. And the story behind it is that Lauren and I were longtime friends. And a few years ago, we were really just talking about how many great qualities boxed wine actually has. It's eco-friendly. It has actually less than half the carbon footprint of wine in glass bottles. It's super convenient. It's glass-free. It's portable. It stays fresh for 4 weeks after opening. So you never have to worry about having one glass at night, then throwing out a bottle the next day. But despite all of those great things, there was nothing on the market that either of us wanted to drink, let alone take to a dinner party or gift to our friends. And, boxed wine in general in the US has this really bad reputation. It's known for being cheap, low quality, and ugly. So we really set out to change that. We decided to reimagine boxed wine for women like us who love everyday affordable luxuries, but also value convenience and sustainability. So we designed our innovative packaging format, which we call the Eco Magnum. So it's actually a really chic cylindrical version of a boxed wine for those that haven't seen it before. It's really unlike anything else out there on the market. And we partnered with an incredible winemaker and a certified sustainable winery in the Central Coast of California and launched our first 3 wines last September. And so far, we're really thrilled with the traction we've seen. We're in over 100 wine shops, restaurants, and bars in 2 states. And we can ship to 44 states online. So we have a really strong online business. And we've gotten a ton of great feedback from women who are kind of like target consumers, from media. We've won some awards. So we're really excited for the future. And this coming year, we have a lot of exciting things coming up in terms of product expansion and expanding to different markets and expanding our channel strategy. So the future is definitely bright. And we're just really thrilled to be kind of pioneering a new movement in the wine space, really centered around sustainability and premiumization in this segment, creating something totally new.
Incredible. So before all of this, what were you both doing for work and how did you know each other?
So we actually met when we were both in college. So we met, I was going to school in Boston. Lauren was visiting my roommate there. And so that's when we sort of struck up a friendship. And then post-college, we were both working for a while in fashion in New York City. And so that's when we became really close friends because we were kind of like on the same scene in New York City and going to a lot of the same events, and we knew a lot of the same people. And so that's when our friendship really blossomed. My career, after spending about 6 or 7 years in fashion and media, I transitioned into wine and spirits. So I worked with some big companies, some big brands for many years before deciding to get my MBA and then pursue something more entrepreneurial in partnership with Lauren.
And Lauren, how about you? What were you up to pre-Juliet?
I've had a colorful career. It's been about 20 years, mostly in sales. So the undercurrent of my career has been residential real estate sales in New York. And for a while, I was marrying that with interior design. But I also took a few years to go and sell tickets to space for Virgin Galactic. And then I was also at Uber for a couple of years, running a team called External Affairs, working with the investors of that great company, and always had a strong passion and interest in wine and the wine industry. And Allison and I, as she said, have known each other for a long time and have always respected each other's business ethic and work ethic a lot. And so we spoke in our 20s offhandedly more than once about different ways that we might someday work together. And then we came up with this idea together almost 3 years ago, and here we are.
Incredible. So I imagine that, the end goal, the end of the day with Juliet is to be the first boxed wine in space. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sorry that we haven't mentioned that yet. Space would be great. In the meantime, we'll take a large commercial airline.
Yeah, pretty much halfway there.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the name too. I mean, obviously it's a brand that is, as you said, targeted towards women. But
Mhm.
Juliet, how did you get that name?
We went through a long process of going through different names. It was important to us that it was a female name and that it was sophisticated, still recognizable, easy to spell, not too long, not too complicated. The idea actually came to us, well, it came to me when I was watching Romeo and Juliet, to be honest with you. It was during COVID. I was on the couch at home and we'd been going through this naming exercise and the movie came up and a light bulb went off and I called Allison and I said, this is it. And then, sort of looked into the background of it. And it was great that obviously it's a strong feminine character in literature. And both of our original family backgrounds are Italian. So I liked the sentimentality of the fact that Juliet Capulet is from Verona in Italy, and it just made sense. And then we tested it amongst a large group, and we found that men and women both responded really positively to it. So we didn't think that it was excluding anyone. And we went forward with it, and we were joyfully able to get the trademark on the name.
Incredible. So I know that you just said, men and women responded positively to it, but it does seem like you guys are targeting women in particular with this product. What was that decision like? Why women?
I can say that, I mean, from a business perspective, women do make the majority of the consumer purchasing decisions in the home here in America. And we just felt that this product lent itself so well to women like ourselves. And I think when you're trying to solve a problem and finding your why, oftentimes some of the most successful products that have been developed that I'm aware of, the creators of the product are also the customer. And so having something as, for myself personally, a high quality wine, clean tasting, no artificial ingredients, that looks beautiful, that can stay in my fridge, that lasts for over 4 weeks after opening. So I'm never just having to worry about wasting a bottle when I pour it down the drain. It just felt like something that the women that I knew and myself personally would really love to have in their lives. And then when Allison and I were going back and forth, and I remember she was speaking about her sister who's a working mom and how she really loved boxed wine because it stays fresh, it's convenient, it's lightweight. Like there's just so many principles to it that we felt like appealed to so many of the women in our lives cross generationally, which was really interesting to me. So women that we knew that were younger than us and older than us, my stepmother, our parents, like it just, yeah, we just decided to speak to women because we are women and we know women. And we thought that we could speak to them in a way that no other wine brand was currently trying to.
Yeah, with the no other wine brand was currently trying to idea. Allison, was it you who said to me before that you felt like the majority of, products in the spirits and wine industry were marketed towards men?
I mean, someone can fact check me on this because I don't have the exact data, but I know in the wine industry in particular, there is a lot of conversation around how the wine industry as a whole can do a better job at speaking to women, at thinking about women and their, unique wants and needs. And so that was something that was top of mind for us coming into this. I think also, my background is in wine as well as spirits, and it traditionally has been, from a business side of things, more of a male dominated industry. That's changing, which is great, but historically it has been that way. So there has been, in the past, a little bit of a pattern where, the perspective of the people creating the products tend to lean more male. And so we really wanted to bring that female perspective to the industry. And I do think that, to build on what Lauren was saying, our product while men might also love boxed wine, we were just anecdotally hearing from so many women that the pain points that boxed wine solves, the convenience factor of it, was something that resonated a lot with women, but they didn't feel there was anything out there that was beautiful to look at or had that great quality. And so I think women as consumers, especially, and we know this because we are that consumer, they don't want to sacrifice, they want something that is convenient and it is a great value for money, but it also looks beautiful and it also has a great quality. And oh, hey, by the way, it's also glass free. So it's easy to take to a picnic or a soccer game and it stays fresh for 4 weeks after opening. So I can have just one glass a night. Like a lot of those pain points we think resonate with women, maybe a little bit more than men. Not that we specifically have tons of data to back that up. It was more of a hypothesis we had when we were creating this brand. And we've certainly seen that the brand and the products have resonated in a huge way with women. If you look at our demographics, our social media audience is over 90% female. If you look at our online sales channel, well more than half of our customers online are women. So I think our hypothesis turned out right that women loved boxed wine. They were just really looking for something that really embodied that affordable luxury or everyday luxury that they are used to in their products in other categories like beauty or like skincare.
So you wanted essentially a luxurious boxed wine that was targeted towards women and was a little bit more upscale than what was out there, already. How have you communicated that, and how do you currently communicate that through the branding on the products and also your marketing efforts?
Yeah, I think we communicate that with our strong visuals. When we developed the building blocks of the aesthetic vision here, the words timeless, Mediterranean, and luxury continued to be used the most often. And as Allison said, we were reinventing a category and one that had a negative stigma. So the branding really needed to transport you to an inspirational and an aspirational place. And we wanted that place to be coastal Italy, coastal France. We poured over mood boards filled with photographs from our own travels, from famous photographers, from hotels that we would love to visit someday. And we found a niche and nailed down a color palette that for both of us evoked those emotions and did successfully transport us to this place or these places that we both drew so much. We both had so many fond memories of being in these places separately and together. And then I think hired an incredible team of 2 independent female graphic designers who, after a lot of very, very late midnight sessions of going back and forth, we nailed the packaging. And I can confidently say that I think we nailed it. I think it's beautiful. I think that there's nothing else like it, certainly not in the boxed wine industry. And I think that the decision to make the packaging style cylindrical rather than a box was really the linchpin in putting a physical representation to the fact that we are truly bridging the gap between boxed and bottled wine. And that's been an interesting discovery for us, that most of the customers to date, and I think that that's because at this point we are we are in specialty retail stores, not in large chains yet. We are often the only boxed wine product in a store that Juliet is carried in. And so right now, the people, mostly the women, but the people that are buying our wines are people that typically buy bottled wines. And so we are successfully shifting the culture away from glass bottles, which is what we set out to do. And I think it's our branding and our packaging shape and style and size that do that. Also, the decision to make it 1.5 liters instead of the more common 3-liter size. That was a very conscious choice we went back and forth on for a while, and we both agreed it was more approachable if you're a glass bottled consumer to look at this as a 1.5 liter rather than a 3-liter purchase, because the investment was more approachable and it just didn't feel like quite so much wine, just in case maybe you don't like it. And so the 1.5 liters seemed more approachable. And also for the quality of the wine, the price reflects that, although it's very, very good value for the quality. So I think the packaging really does that for us, conveys the brand vision. And then from a marketing perspective, we really market ourselves as an aspirational luxury brand. We want to show our customer, inspire them to be enjoying themselves, envisioning themselves, they have the wine, they're drinking it at home, but they're, perhaps like daydreaming of being somewhere else, of thinking of who is Juliet, who is the Juliet woman. I think creating that motivation, that inspiration, like I said to begin with, is something that's important to us.
So you
Sorry,
wanted to look at, these photos of beautiful hotels in Italy and, southern France. And I'm sure that you looked at, fonts that were pictured on those hotels and in those photos and the colors that came through. And, sounds like you distilled all of that down to create ultimately what represented the luxury Mediterranean lifestyle to you and put it on your packaging, which is all well and good. But how do you know that it's resonating with more people outside of just yourself? Like, how do you know that people really believe that this wine is more luxurious than your average boxed wine or evokes, feelings of being on the Mediterranean?
when they taste it.
Really?
Yeah.
Say more.
I think that the taste of the wine the wine is just so high quality. So the packaging is really beautiful. And the packaging, it's like your looks will get you through the door. They won't keep you in the room. My mother always used to say that. Our packaging gets you in the door. Our wine keeps us in the room. Our wine keeps us on the shelf. Our wine keeps the customers coming back. It's great that it's beautiful. I think that that's inarguable, whether that's the color palette is your style or taste or not. I think it is just a very attractive looking package, but the quality of the wine speaks for itself. And I think that that's really the shining star is the wine itself.
Incredible. So obviously you guys have an online sales channel, which I've heard just through the direct to consumer industry is really, really difficult to build in the alcohol space. Allison, I'm sure that you had heard that before as well. But I'm curious as to how you guys are able to sell your wine online, where, which kind of consumer, where people are located, where they can buy it online. How did that entire process work and who can buy this wine online?
First and foremost, Juliet is licensed as a winery. We have a winery property in Santa Barbara region. And so because of that, we are able to ship direct to consumer in many states in the US if we get the appropriate permits. And so we took the time and we made the investment and we worked really closely with our compliance team to get those appropriate permits so that we don't have to essentially ship to a retailer and then ship to a consumer, which is the journey that spirits have to make because they aren't legally allowed to send directly to consumers. So that's one reason that we did it, is because for us there is a little bit less red tape in terms of executing in this channel. And then number two, we are so differentiated. There is no wine product out there like ours. And so when we launched, we had nothing to benchmark against in terms of validating our pricing strategy, our channel strategy, our branding strategy. We didn't even know when we launched if we would resonate with women. That was something that we validated over time by really closely watching the metrics and our returning customer rate and our engaging with our audience. And so we wanted to give ourselves that time, really engaging one-on-one with the customer, shipping directly to the customer, gaining a loyal following of people that are ordering our wine over and over again in order to gather that data and really ensure that we had our strategy in the place it needed to be. We could confidently say we have product market fit before going out to the distributors and the retailers and the big chains and selling in our product there. So we're really glad we did it, but it's very expensive because alcohol is just expensive to ship. It's heavy. There's different pain points that other consumer goods don't have to deal with, like signing for the delivery, which consumers, they're aware of, but they don't like to do it. And we are, it's just a decision that we made from a strategic perspective to focus on in year one, but we'll be, much more focused on retail and really firmly omni-channel moving forward.
So we don't have a ton of time left, but before I let you go, I definitely wanted to ask you about that retail strategy. You were telling me, before we got on the call today that you guys had really worked with a lot of luxury resorts and hotels and then gotten into retailers, like smaller local retailers around them. Would love if you could describe all of that in much better words than I just put it in to our listeners.
Yeah, this has been a really exciting discovery since we launched. So when we initially launched, we thought that we would primarily be sold in what we call the off-premise. So that's liquor stores, that's wine shops, that's anywhere you would go to purchase your wine. And what ended up happening is that we were getting so much awareness through different media articles and just through word of mouth that we started getting inbound interest from really high-end resorts like the Auberge resorts and the Belmont, one of the Belmont resorts in California, and then high-end restaurants out in the Hamptons. And they were wanting to serve Juliet in restaurants and hotels because we solved very specific needs for them. Some of them really wanted, to embrace sustainable products. Some of them wanted to have something that was glass free and could be served poolside or could be served in an outdoor dining area. And so we've leaned into that, and it's become a bigger part of our channel strategy and our approach to the retail. And what we found is that when we are in these restaurants or hotels, more often than not, if we're also in a liquor store or a wine shop in the adjacent area, our sales velocity in those accounts will be much higher. So it's early days, but that's definitely something that we've been tracking and that we've noticed a pattern. We've noticed that in a few different locations. And that's something that's really exciting because there's an old saying in the wine and spirits industry that brands are built in the on-premise. So it's that people discover new products on a wine list or at a bar. And then if they like it, they'll go and buy it on a regular basis in a liquor store. And going into this venture, we just didn't know if that would even be a possibility for us, but it really has turned out to be a great opportunity. And it's a great brand building and marketing opportunity, a great way for consumers to discover our product. But it's also something that's very unique to Juliet in the box wine space. There's really no other box wines that we're aware of being sold in restaurants and high-end resorts. And so for us, that's something that really sets us apart from the pack.
Cool. That is honestly a really fascinating retail strategy for me. I think that a lot of direct-to-consumer brands are so focused on trying to get into the Whole Foods of the world, if you will, or, these more big box stores that other avenues don't necessarily present themselves as easily or get as much attention from them. But have you guys seen really good, essentially, results from that? Like what have, concrete metrics wise, what have you seen from those off-premise efforts?
So to date, we're in a lot of fantastic high-end independents, and we've seen really great results in terms of velocity, in terms of how many reorders we're getting, how often we're pulling off the shelf. So that is fantastic. We're really excited about it. I think the next frontier for us is to take that success and translate it into the bigger chains, like you just said, like the Whole Foods and the Targets of the world, and start to be there too. One thing anecdotally that we've heard over and over and over again from our customers, whether they're emailing our customer service or DMing us on Instagram or coming up to us at events, is that they really want to see us in the Targets and Whole Foods of the world, because that is where a lot of people are buying their wine. So it's definitely something that's going to be central to our strategy moving forward. And in an ideal world, maybe it sounds simple, but we want to be everywhere that our consumer shops. And so, in the spirit of being omni-channel, I think there's a place for us in these smaller high-end independent retailers just as much as there is a place for us in the bigger box grocery chains. And I think that direct to consumer will even have a place in that strategy in the future. So it's really just finding the right balance and making sure that we're serving our customer wherever she is.
Incredible. Well, definitely excited to see what happens with Juliet next. Allison, Lauren, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the pod and sharing all of your insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was Allison Luvera and Lauren Niro Pipher, the founders of Juliet Wine, and I'm Phoebe Bain, senior reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for tuning in.